This is not even necessarily like how smart are you or how much do you know the content. We're trying to learn how to take the test. I'm trying to win. Like, I'm trying to get those best scores. And this is exactly what we need. Make sure the kids know the types of questions that you're going to be given and how they're going to be graded.
Let's be honest, high-stakes exams have a way of exposing instructional gaps you didn't even know were there. Students are confused, teachers are rethinking life choices. If you've looked over exam results and thought, we've definitely covered this, right? Then this episode is for you. Haylee Woodcock, an AP expert, joins us to unpack what's really missing and how to fix it with a few small, smart instructional shifts. This is Classroom to Campus, and today's episode is titled, What the Best AP Teachers Know But Rarely Say Out Loud. I'm your host, Philip Bates. Normally, we have the wonderful Megan Blessing, our producer, but she is out. She had a little toot thing, so she is gone. But Haylee, your job is to keep me in line, keep me from messing with my hair, just keep me from saying anything stupid. Deal?
Deal.
Okay, you sound really confident in that.
I got it.
Okay. Well, hey, thank you for being here. We really love that you took the time to join us. I'm going to kick it off with a question for you. So what's something about teaching AP that experienced teachers know, but almost never say out loud?
For AP specifically, everyone's always talking about like, you don't want to teach to the test. Not for AP, just for regular teaching. People are always saying, oh, that teacher just teaches to the test. And that's not what we're supposed to be doing. For AP, kind of are. So I kind of like it because it's like a spot in teaching where you can be a little more competitive of like, you've got that like yardstick to figure out, okay, am I doing better than this school or better than this teacher? So I like teaching to the test because I mean, that's the whole point that the whole reason they're there, right? Is trying to get that credit. So whenever you give that content to the kids being like, this is what you need for the points, like you need to include this and this and this, or you're going to lose points on the exam. The kids are into it. Like it becomes more of like a game of like, yes, I'm teaching you the material and I want to make sure that you understand it, but like, what are we here for? What
it sounds like you're coming across and saying is all great AP teachers are maybe a slightly bit competitive.
Yeah, I mean, if I represent the AP teachers, then yes, because I'm trying to win. Like I'm trying to get those best scores.
Well, and you know the benchmark. You know what you're going to be measured on.
Yeah.
And I think AP teachers probably do secretly like that, specifically if they are competitive and they know what mark they want to try to meet.
Yeah, it's difficult now when we have all the like teacher incentive allotments and they're trying to figure out like how do we rank teachers, and it's kind of like, well, it's not really fair because you can't, but for AP, we got that.
Much easier, isn't it?
Yeah, it's easy to kind of see where you're at.
So how soon in the year would you kind of evaluate a class and go, all right, you're going to get a 3, you're going to get a 5. Oh, I really hope you could pull off a 2. I mean, when did you start like figuring out what you thought your students were going to score?
I don't know. I've never thought about it early on. I do at the end of the year. I've even told the kids I make a little spreadsheet for myself, and I don't tell them what a teacher that I taught with before did this. He was like, I make a spreadsheet of like my guesses, and then what they get. And he's like, I'm always plus or minus 1, and we try to see. We do like a little competition to see who's closest. So I always do it like right at the end before the test. Though I haven't thought about doing it earlier. I mean, some of the kids immediately you're like, that kid's a 5, or you're like, that kid's not going to pass. But it is fun to be like, okay, I think that's a 4, I think that's a 3, and then I put them in, and I get the scores back, and it's exciting to be like, oh, dang it! Like, it's really fun too if they do better. You know, sometimes you'll think a kid is barely going to pass, and they pull out a 5, and you're like, oh, heck yeah,
that's awesome.
So
I'm sensing that competitiveness coming out again. So you see a bunch of really fantastic AP teachers teach. I'm sure you're popping in rooms or you're talking to people. What are some things, if you walked into a great AP teacher's classroom, little things, little nuances, little things that you might go, ooh, they got it figured out?
Regularly saying stuff about the test, like if they're going through a problem, not just showing how to do it, but saying, okay, we need to include this and this and this. Like, make sure you say it in this way. Like, I taught AP stats for a while, and you would have to explain things in a certain way. It was now that I teach AP Calc, it's kind of crazy. I realize like stats requires a very specific way to get the points. So I would always make sure to say, okay, this is how we do the problem. And then when you're giving the answer, you need to say this and this and this in this way. If you use this word, you're not going to get the points. So I think if I'm looking at a teacher, they need to be like bringing up, okay, this is what needs to be done to get those full points. And also, this is probably just like good teaching in general, but there needs to be some sort of like community with the kids of like not being scared to say that they don't understand. Like that's my biggest hurdle, and my biggest thing that I pride myself on too is like getting the class to not be scared to be like, wait, go back. I don't understand what happened there. Because I think with freshmen, sophomores, like before AP, kids are like so embarrassed to say, I didn't get that. And you just got to like look at them and figure out if they understood it or not. But with the AP kids, I'm like, none of y'all have ever taken this course before. Yeah. You shouldn't know how to do it. So the sooner you're comfortable with being like, hold on, say that again, and asking your friend or asking me, like we're all going to get it together better. So I think
that building community, I think, is huge.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing about AP students is if they don't know it, they are afraid to say something because they've always known the answer.
Yeah.
They've always been the smartest one in the room. And for them to admit they don't get something, and I think it is a skill that teachers have to bring that out in students and to get them to admit, yeah, I'm not sure on this one, that sort of thing.
It didn't come to my attention until a principal observed me and said like, oh, your kids are super comfortable asking questions, and that doesn't happen on accident.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, I did. Yeah. So now I'm like, okay, I have to make sure that I do that. Because whenever he said that, I was like, that is a really good compliment. Like that's something I want to do. And it is harder with the AP kids. So I will bring that up to them. I'm like, you guys have probably never gotten a B before, but you might this year. Like it's going to be hard, and you've got to work with each other. Like we're preparing them for college. So you need to be kind of like teaching yourself some stuff, and it's fun.
So they talk a lot about AP teachers really having to know their content. And absolutely, you better know your content. I mean, if you don't know your content, it's going to be very, very difficult to teach this high-level content to students. But I think at times that kind of goes overboard, and that is the biggest concern is, oh, I know my content, therefore my students are naturally going to do well. Yeah. Where do you think that disconnect comes?
I love this question because I get in like scuffles with teachers sometimes.
Okay.
I think whenever I talk to people like outside of education specifically, if I tell them, oh, I'm a high school teacher, I teach high school math, and they're like, oh, what grade? And I say AP calculus. They're like, oh my God, you must be so smart. And like, I hope I'm smart. I think I'm smart, but that's not even the biggest reason that you can be a good teacher. I think sometimes if you're too smart, honestly, you can't like relate to the kids. Yep. So I will, like I said, I'll get in these scuffles with teachers because some teachers know the content so good that they are like, well, we have to make sure that they do it this way because if they leave out this small little thing, technically it's wrong. I think just knowing like where to step back and be like, okay, if you can hit this, this, and this point, then like you're going to get all the points that you need for the problem.
Yeah, that's good. So approachable, competitive, building community, all these things. You know, all these are positive things. You've probably seen some teachers make some missteps and worked with some teachers that maybe made some missteps. What are some common missteps that you see AP teachers make?
You feel bad sometimes taking off points for things for the kids because like you said, like they've probably always been doing really well and they might kind of almost have it, but if you know your scoring rubrics, you should know like these are the things that the graders are looking for, and you need to hit this component and this component and this component. You have to, from the get-go, be like, I am grading your exams the way that the AP test is going to grade them. And I'm not saying like just fail your kids. Like, you know, apply a curve. I think curves are super warranted in a lot of AP courses. Sure. But if they are not seeing that you took off a point for something, especially these kids are like so into grades. They're like, oh, I got all the points. I know it. They're not going to fix it. So you can't just be like, oh, I gave you full points on this, but technically you should have included this for it. Like you need to take off those points so they're like, okay, I need to fix this for next time.
So consistent expectations.
Yes. And being aligned with the AP grading.
Because you do see that. I think you see teachers wanting to do students a favor.
Yeah.
And really what they're doing is maybe lowering that bar, lowering that expectation with the hope that maybe the student will eventually figure it out.
Yeah.
And they don't.
And they don't figure it out until they take that first test. And they're like, what the heck? And then after that, they do better because they're like, okay, she is for real. Like we're taking off points for. So it's just showing them the scoring rubrics. You know, I'll post them up from College Board and I'll be like, this is what you needed to have. Yeah. So if if you don't have it, you're going to lose it because you're going to lose it on the exam.
So first test comes out, and I've talked to teachers that, on their first exam, they kind of like to bloody some noses. You've heard that term. Like,
Yeah.
I like when there's some rough scores there.
Yeah.
Do you prefer to see just really great scores your first test that you give, or do you say, hey, I want to kind of bloody some noses and see some rough scores here?
I do like the wake up call, because then
That's a good way to say it.
It would be great if they were good. I just don't. It doesn't happen that often because they're so used to doing well since they've gotten to an AP course. So it is nice for them to be like, what the heck, and then know how to turn it around.
AP or any challenging type of assessment, it pushes students to critically think, and I think that. AP, any challenging course, any challenging assessment, getting kids to think specifically nowadays. Mm-hmm. And there has been a shift, I think, data would show you there's less critical thinking going on. Students are struggling to problem solve, that sort of thing. How do teachers help students learn to problem solve effectively, think at a higher level of thinking, that sort of thing?
Okay, I have an education buzzword.
Okay.
I don't use a lot of buzzwords, but this is my favorite one. The productive struggle.
Oh, yeah,
man.
We love that on the show. We talk about it all the time.
Yes. I would, when I was an instructional coach, I would have to interview teachers a lot. What's your favorite part about teaching? And they're always like, oh, the light bulb moment, which I get. So pro tip, if you're interviewing, come up with something more exciting. Every teacher says that. I like the pre-light bulb moment of when the kids are just like, oh my God, I can't figure it out. But they're going to get there eventually. I think AP is just straight, can you apply stuff? We're not giving the, here's your quiz, and the next day you're taking a test over the exact same problems with numbers changed. Yeah. I hate doing that, because even looking back at myself, I always did super well in school, but I had a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
just rote memorization.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now that I'm a teacher, I'm I was just good at school. I don't know if I really knew the material that well, because now I do. And so I think making sure that they're able to understand something that I didn't necessarily teach them, get there through through the productive struggle of talking with all the other kids and saying, okay, if we try this, and can't be the answer, because if we use that, then this is going to happen. Then they're going to learn all this other stuff on the way to getting there.
So does the AP curriculum lend itself to just, hey, teach the curriculum and you are going to insert rigor, and you're going to encourage critical thinking and all those sort of things? Or does a teacher have to supplant that in their lessons?
I think they have to, because for stats specifically, we had this FRQ called the investigative task that is specifically material that they have not been taught in the course. Sure. But they can figure out through the parts of the FRQ. So they're basically deriving something. Mm-hmm. So we will just have these days of pretty much figure it out together. We started off, and the first couple parts you should be able to understand, but then that's another reason why I said they got to be working together, because sometimes I just give them a problem. I'm this is hard, and you got to figure out how to do it, because that's literally what some of the questions are. And then that just starts them asking questions and then talking with each other and having to explain to me well to get out. So it's all these skills as they're doing that are going to help them. Yeah.
So it's not the curriculum per se. It's going through the curriculum in a purposeful way that brings out problem solving.
Yeah.
So let's talk about teaching the entire course, because I work with a bunch of AP teachers, and some I feel bad with. The teachers in the Northeast start school later, and therefore they've got to squeeze it all in before that AP test in May.
Yeah, that's
tough. Yeah, that's tough. And everybody's got their challenges, but that's a specific calendar challenge. So when you're talking to an AP teacher and work with an AP teacher, and they're just saying, well, all I've heard is I've got to teach the whole course. I've got to cram it all in. The students have got to hear me teach the entire course before that May test. How do you feel about that?
It is hard. You got to have a plan at the beginning for sure. I think you need to have a year outline, first of all, and then know, okay, this topic and this topic, or this chunk of topics is only 2% of the exam. There's a breakdown on the CED. So okay, if whatever happens, bad weather days and we got to lose some stuff, this is where we're going to lose from, because it's only going to be a couple questions. And then also the ones that are can be figured out they're like connected to the bigger topics, because I think you'll have like these main like heavy hitter topics and then other ones kind of like stem off of those. So if you like really go hard on the big important ones, then it's just like that investigative task, like those other topics, the kids can maybe kind of figure it out on their own. As long as it's a small part of the exam and it kind of like connects to other topics, just know which ones you're going to like get rid of first if you need to.
So being very, very strategic about teaching the course.
Yeah.
What you can leave out, what you need to spend more time on. Is that, I mean, that's not in the CED. So is that something that...
You're talking about like the breakdown?
Well, the breakdown is, but like the strategery behind it. So where do you get the strategery? Is that just experience? Is that talking to people? Is that, where does that come from?
Chris Lehrman, shout out Chris Lehrman. When I first started teaching AP, he was teaching it with me. I just never taught AP stats before, and I was like, help me out. And he had taught it for like 15 years, and he was like, well, this is what I do. So definitely get with someone that has taught it before so they can tell you like, this is what I do, and then bring your own stuff in too. But being organized, super, super helpful. And it helps the kids too, so they know what to expect.
Yeah. So you talked about AP style questions earlier. I think one of the challenges that teachers have is there's a million AP style questions out there. Either AP Classroom, UWorld provides them obviously, but there's just a bunch out there. What's the trick to weighing through them and finding the good ones? And how did you insert AP questions and practice into your teaching effectively?
Regardless of like which ones you pick, I am including those constantly. Like they should not be doing practice that's not AP exam style questions. Like I would be every lesson, it's like, okay, here's 5 questions over this stuff that you might see. And like I said before, I mean, you're never going to know exactly what they're going to see because they're always trying to like ask it different directions, but you should be doing it every day basically. Yeah. And then the FRQ stuff, I would have these days, FRAPPY days, free response AP practice, yay.
Wow. There is an acronym, Zach, we have not heard yet.
Free response AP practice, yay.
And it's
FRAPPY.
FRAPPY.
FRAPPY. You'd have a FRAPPY and I would just give the kids an FRQ. They'd split it up like this table do this chunk, this table do this chunk. And then I'd post on the board and like a representative would come up and write out the answer on the board and then another one for each part, and then we'd basically just grade it as a class. And the kids get into it because they like roasting their friends. They'll be like, oh, you forgot that. That's a -1 point. So, but it's having them grade each other's FRQ, like a class FRQ is like great. Super nice. And we can be like, okay, this got a 4 out of 5 or whatever. They liked it, and it was great because then I would also post up the scoring rubric, and I'd be like, I've been telling you, like as I've been grading it for you guys, and you all were complaining I'm taking off points. This person lost points. So you gotta know the scoring rubrics.
So in terms of explanations, like UWorld, we do explanations. You're familiar, very familiar with UWorld. I think the whole explanation concept that UWorld does, it's a partner of our podcast. So that's why I'm bringing it up and talking about it. But most teachers don't understand the power of a good explanation paired with a really good AP question. What value do you see in something like an explanation that's well written?
A time saver first. Like, you got 30 kids in your room. You can't sit there with every single kid on every single question and explain exactly why they got it wrong or how to get it right the next time. So spending your time more like showing them how to read those explanations so that they can become more of like a college type student of like learning how to self-study. It's the most help. I mean, it's a tool for them to learn how to study, basically. I think if you are a kid and you know how to study, then you're going to be able to do well. That's kind of like when I went back to telling you I did good in school, but I realized when I went to college, I was like, I just always did well in school and I didn't have to study because I could figure it out. So that's kind of like forcing kids to learn how to study.
Yeah. Yeah, I think being students learning that there's a component of individualized learning, more independent learning, I should say. There's a component of individual learning that they've got to do. I mean, they've got to own that piece, and they've got to be able to go out there and fix some of their misconceptions themselves. They got to have a really good tool for that, but they actually have to do that themselves. Every day, educators work tirelessly to keep high school students motivated. But despite their best efforts, too many students still feel lost in a system that doesn't always support their success. At UWorld, we believe education is about unlocking a future full of possibilities. That's why our team of educators created teaching and learning tools for the advanced placement exams. Powerful, easy-to-use resources that help students master even the most challenging concepts. Content that features dynamic visuals created by world-class artists and interactive elements that spark curiosity and a love for learning. Our mission is to help every student reach their full potential. Whether that means earning valuable college credit by excelling on AP exams or achieving their dream SAT score, UWorld is here every step of the way. Every day, across the country, students are using UWorld to turn their aspirations into reality. Discover how UWorld can help your students succeed. Visit collegereadiness.uworld.com to learn more. You said something a second ago about only AP caliber, rigor type of questions.
Yeah.
No lower?
I guess, okay, if I say only.
No, I don't think it's a bad thing.
I'm not like giving an assignment that's like not AP level. But during the class, like right when I'm introducing the material, you know, we get some low level ones. So like, did you get that? Like a check your understanding type stuff.
Yeah.
But if you are like assigning something, yes, I think it needs to be AP level. And that's why earlier I was like, curving is warranted. I think that if you are like testing these kids at an AP level always, I think it's important you should do it. But they're, you know, I don't know what the cutoff scores are for like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you're getting a 70, you're probably doing pretty good. So there should be, you know, there should be some sort of curving there. But at least they know like I got it right or wrong, or this is the points that I need. So I guess I shouldn't say never, but most of the time, I'm going for those
No, I think that's right.
ones.
I think you know, if we're staying at that AP level consistently, then students have to reach that bar.
Yeah.
If we keep it too far low, they're never even going to see what that bar looks like.
Yeah.
What is your take on retakes? That is a hotbed topic right now.
I think it's very hard to like blanket statement stuff for if we're talking about AP versus advanced versus on level, like different kids need different things. For AP, like these kids should be kids that are like super self-motivated. They know what they're doing. It's not future ready to be like, oh, try again, oh, try again, oh, try again.
Yeah.
Do I like the idea of like one retake a quarter or the semester or whatever replaces lowest grade? Yes. Like they're still kids. And if they know it later, then great. But I think whenever you do retakes, then you get into like, the kids don't treat the original test as the test. They treat the retake as the test. And they're just kind of like trying to, it's just not real life, I guess. Like you've got to try the first time. So I'm not the biggest retake.
So it sounds like there's a way to do it at appropriate times that serves a purpose, but there's some abusive retaking tests.
Yeah, I think you should be, it's not an off limits, but it's not like a given of like every single thing I give you, you can redo that. So don't actually really try hard the first time.
I think you're not alone. And I think whatever wonderful district you work in, you know, obviously is trying to support student success.
Yeah.
So I think there's a place for retakes as well.
Right.
I just think oftentimes they get abused probably the most by students.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to game whatever system you set up. So
yeah, and there's there's not horrible things about, you know, the pursuit of gaming a system because they're thinking. The problem is it's the pursuit of evil, not good.
Yes.
I think a lot of times.
I do. Some teachers will get so mad about like kids grade grubbing or like taking advantage of the retests. Yeah. And I'm like, you shouldn't really get mad at them because would you rather them be getting into like real trouble or like their annoying behavior is like really trying to get that 98 versus that 95? Like I get it.
What the heck is grade grubbing?
Grade grubbing, like I got a 95 on this, but I should have got these 2 points. Like I think I should have got a 97 because I said this.
Arguing with you to increase
for like the kids who are grade grubbing are not asking for like an 80 versus a 60. They're literally asking for like the A+ versus the A. And you're like, get out of here. Like you already know it.
That's funny. All right. So you're working with a new AP teacher. And you need to give them just one solid piece of advice. And if it turns into a couple pieces of advice, that's okay. But if you want to, you got to give them one solid piece of advice on how they're going to have just an amazing year, how they're going to get all their kids to do well on their AP tests. What are you telling them?
You need to know the questions that they're going to see and the scoring rubrics. I'm so big into the scoring rubrics because I made a point of like every time you go over questions, telling the kids you need this and this and this, you only know that if you know the scoring rubrics. So before each topic or unit or whatever, go through the FRQ questions that you can find that are aligned to that, and you do it and grade yourself, because you're not gonna get full points the first time. Like every time I do, if it's a new AP course, I'm not getting the full points. And I tell the kids that. I'm like, this is not even necessarily like how smart are you or how much do you know the content. We're trying to like learn how to take the test. So take the FRQs, take a full AP exam, and then grade yourself. And then you can learn from that too and be like, okay, I had to include this and this and this. And I think the more open you are with the kids of like, I think whenever it's my first or second year teaching an AP course, I teach it super well because I know what's hard. Like I'm not so like, I've done this every year. I know how to do everything. Like, why can't they figure it out? I'm like, oh, I just did this and this part was hard. So you need to be like on the level with the kids of like, I just took this thing last week and this is exactly what we need. Like make sure the kids know that you know exactly the types of questions that you're going to be given and how they're going to be graded.
Yeah. You are super passionate. You have this wonderful positive attitude about teaching and about students. What makes you love teaching so much?
The light bulb moment. I'm just kidding.
Whatever.
I think,
way to bring that right back. That was good.
Just like it's very math centered, but I love math. I feel like it's like so satisfying to solve a super long problem and like to work through that productive struggle that I talked about before. I love getting kids to like enjoy something that they think that they wouldn't. Literally last week, I think on Friday, I was doing a lesson in pre-cal. And I was like, y'all are going to think this is fun, I promise. And they're like, no, we're not. And I said, the last class, they admitted it. So in every class, we were like doing stuff. And I was like trying to make it like fast and fun and like a competition. And the kids were like, okay, this is low-key kind of fun. So just like kids just assume they aren't going to like stuff at school. And you like trying to like prove to them like being good at something is fun. Like even if it's nerdy, if you can get good at something, no one—
Satisfying.
No one doesn't like doing stuff that they're good at. So just getting them to that point of being like, it's fun to like really try hard at something and then get it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So where can folks find you if they want to contact you and, talk about AP
like my social
teaching?
media handle?
Yeah, man. How can they get a hold of you?
I guess, you can look me up on LinkedIn, Haylee Woodcock. I have an Instagram, Hales Woody, Hales.
Excellent.
Hales Woody.
Awesome.
Yep.
You guys can walk through CEDs together.
Yeah, I'm so excited I got to talk to you about this stuff because I have my teacher friends, but my like core group of friends, none of them teach. So I like will get into stuff and I can kind of tell they're like, all right, I'm not like that into this. So it's fun to talk to someone who's like also very into it.
I'm into it.
Yep.
And thank you. You did a great job.
Thank
and I really enjoyed hearing everything you've got to give to this next wonderful group of AP teachers who are hopefully going to come in and kick some butt and rock it. So I think that's what our big goal is, and what our big passion and challenge is all these new teachers that we hope come into the profession, that we, kind of serve them and get them where they need to be.
All right. Thanks
so much. Well, folks, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate Haylee. She's got to get back to her very busy classroom and get ready for those big, important AP exams that are coming up for her. Love the stuff she talked about, productive struggle, as far as pushing her students, as far as being present for her students, that really struck me as something really positive. So teachers out there, hey, go do your thing. We really appreciate you. Remember, life begins at the edge of your comfort zone. Please subscribe, please like, please let us know if you want to be on the show or if you got somebody wonderful that you want us to interview. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much. The opinions expressed by our guests and hosts are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views from Classroom to Campus, UWorld, or its affiliates. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please remember to subscribe and leave a 5-star rating that really helps us out. Thank you so much.